somebody had asked me, said, what do you think about the WWE bringing back some of the legends to get guys over? How was that question phrased? I can't even remember now.
We had received a few questions about ways to potentially help WWE in their problem with their declining popularity and driving people off. And one of the questions was specific to, do you think it would help them to incorporate more legends, to have guest GMs and wrestling legends on each and every week? And I'll let you explain it, but you scoffed at that idea. You pointed out why it would be ridiculous and also counterproductive.
Well, and the clip is up on YouTube if anybody wants to listen to the whole thing, but basically the gist of it was that every time they do that, practically, they expose that the level of star power of the guys from whatever generation they're bringing them back from, 80s, 90s, whatever, early 2000s maybe at this point, is so much bigger than their current guys. The old guys, I say old in terms of older era, and sometimes the just old age guys are still so much more over because they were more over to begin with. It was a time where these people still liked more about wrestling than they obviously do now, because even the WWE fans that are faithful these days and still watch, they go batshit insane for the prior generations because they like that shit better. Even if they like it now, they like the other shit, the older shit better. And it just shows when you bring out guys that look like that and are that over, whether there's a live crowd or not. The people at home sitting on TV, the people sitting at home watching TV, they're thinking, yeah, boy, the crowds were huge, and I love this guy. And it's just a reminder. And for a while there, they would bring back legends, especially in their hometowns, and humiliate them. But that wasn't a legend like they didn't, give Steve Austin a dirty Sanchez or whatever. But sometimes, the hometown legends or the guys on the fence, they would, make them look bad. But the ones that they've protected and the ones that have, demanded to be protected and haven't done anything stupid, when they come back, it's a different level. And I said, I think that, there's always a way to utilize legends in a pro wrestling promotion, but they don't seem to be doing it. And now they're in the position where if they do it, it exposes their shortcomings with not making any major level stars of the past 10 years or whatever, just the guys that are in the current little niche bubble. And what did they do, Brian? Hours after that, was it hours after it aired, or just even hours after we said it and they read our minds?
It was hours after the show had debuted, hours after it first aired.
So no, and somebody's out there going to say, oh, Cornette now saying they're doing it. No, I'm not taking credit for they had this in the pipeline, obviously. But it was once again, great timing. But they've announced the big legend show for Raw on January 4th or whatever?
January 4th.
Will it be in the Tokyo Dome?
It will not be in the Tokyo Dome, but the latest act of desperation by WWE will be Legends Night on Raw, live, January 4th. And I actually have a list of the legends that have so far been announced for this extravaganza of epic proportions.
Well, I heard Flair and Hogan. Is there more of that level?
Yes, there are many more legends that WWE wants to try to get infected with COVID that are listed for this event.
Well, wait a minute. Now, it's an episode of Raw, right?
Correct.
So you've got Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan.
That should be enough.
I was about okay, and then bring 2 or 3 more just so that, it is Legends Night, but they would be somewhat on the second tier below Flair and Hogan, and then you have all you need because it's a free episode of television, and then you can save other legends for a later period of time, right?
Well, they have a number of legends, a number of people returning to Raw, in some cases for the first time in many years. I'll read you the list in alphabetical order.
Oh, thank you for putting it in alphabetical order.
Returning to Raw on January 4th for Legends Night, Alicia Fox.
Okay. I did. See, but if you have Flair and Hogan and you have 2 or 3 guys or girls that are next level underneath that, then do you also include everybody that's ever worn tights? What Alicia Fox is a legend on this list along with Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. Has she even been gone? How long has she been gone? I wouldn't be able to pick her up out of a lineup right now.
I must admit, I didn't even realize she was gone. So I don't know
what she looks like. Go ahead.
The most famous moment of her career is one she wasn't even in. It's when Steve Austin was hosting Tough Enough, and he went up to, I think her name was Ariane maybe? She was the one who became one of the Funkadactyls. And he said, tell me what your favorite match of all time is. And she said, Melina versus Alicia Fox.
Oh my God.
And he just incredulously said, who? But also returning to Raw, January 4th, Legends Night, big return, Beth Phoenix, the Glamazon.
I like Beth. Beth spent a lot of time here in OVW. Great athlete, apparently wonderful mother now, resident of North Carolina. So there you go. You got one of the legendary girls of the 2000s. So there you go.
And I guess because the Raw audience doesn't watch NXT, they don't realize she's been there the whole time.
Well, yeah, she is on television, but they never see her.
No, well, actually, that's a good point. She doesn't go to the NXT tapings.
No,
is she going to go to Raw? Is she going to Raw?
Well, they wouldn't announce that she was going to be there as part of Legends Night if she wasn't going. They don't announce the announcers ahead of time.
Well, that's the question, though.
The announcers.
This is the pandemic. Is everyone actually going to be in attendance? Or are they going to have, like, here on the screen on Zoom from their living room, the Glamazon?
Well, there's a good question. They could save on plane tickets, couldn't they? They don't need to sell live event tickets, advertising these people, as long as you get to see them on television. But there is an assumed, an assumption in people's minds when they're announcing these names that they're going to be there to interact in some way with each other, or the potential is there for them to interact with each other. So that would be kind of shitty when you think about it, if they just had them come in by Skype and say, hey. But I like Beth.
Also returning to Raw, The Big Show.
Well, it's The Big Show.
It's the worst
there you
song.
Go.
The
There's
worst song ever.
Yeah. But Big Show, big name from
earlier this year. Wasn't he just there? Didn't he just do stuff with them again?
Well, I was about to say, I haven't been watching Raw and SmackDown. He fits the legend category because of his position there for the past 20 years. I don't know how long it's been since he's been there last, so I don't know how much of a long-awaited return this is.
Returning to Raw for Legends Night, get ready to fumigate the motel, the Boogeyman.
And if anybody wants to know that story, then you can check that out on YouTube also. I love Marty. And every time that I see him, I've seen him at several of these fan fests and conventions over the last few years. And he's always got a hug and a handshake, right? And a smile, even though he hasn't got all his teeth. But are we, once again, are we watering this down? Doesn't it, if you have Night of the Legends and you really want to make it an attraction, don't you have Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, one or two female performers and a couple of second tier guys, and it's everybody now. I don't know that the Boogeyman I would fit as legend, and that's not knocking Boogeyman.
Also returning to Raw for this Hall of Fame, returning to Raw for this extravaganza, 5-time WCW champion Booker T.
Okay, there you go. Booker T is a guy that I'm talking about. Have somebody that's fucking got status just a notch below the Flair and the Hogan, and a couple more of him, and that fits.
Also making a big return.
But now, wait a minute. How long's it? Isn't Booker still doing stuff? I see pictures of him on Twitter, but he does a podcast and he does other shows and stuff. He hasn't appeared there for a while.
I thought he appears on like their pregame or postgame shows for the pay-per-views, but I don't watch those. But that's
okay, but maybe that's what he's been doing. In that case, it's not that. Once again, it's not that much of a stretch. Oh my God, he's back! If he's still actively participating, but it's not. But he is the level of guy that should be there.
Making a big return to Raw. I don't even remember the last time this person was there for Legends Night. Candice Michelle.
Okay. Can you explain to me, Brian Last, who she is?
She was one of the divas in the era of divas who I think she was in the GoDaddy commercial. That was a big deal for a moment.
Oh, yeah. GoDaddy. Yeah. Okay. I remember one of the girls being in a GoDaddy commercial. Well, I'm glad to see she's back.
Also making a big return for Legends Night, one of the younger legends on the list, Carlito.
Okay, seriously now. And you know, is fake Razor or fake Diesel going to be on the list now? What is the cutoff for legendary status here at this point?
Whoever answers the phone.
Okie dokie. Well,
See, he would fit in if they did like one of those gimmick battle royals like they did at the WrestleMania you were in.
Yeah.
If they did one of those now, Carlito, perfect entrant.
There you go. But Night of Legends, I'm not seeing it.
Also returning to Raw from Mudlick, Kentucky, Hillbilly Jim.
Okay, there you go. And one for the 80s. Hillbilly Jim, he was on the cartoon show. He was on the albums. He was on Rock and Wrestling. Everybody remembers him. He's personable. He's done PR and shit for years. There's another one of your legends that you could have from the 80s era underneath, as I mentioned, guys like Flair and Hogan. And it's not out of place, and he can do, whatever. And also a lot of people probably are thinking, well, fuck, Cornette's really 80s crazy and gone nuts now, but Hillbilly Jim also was on network television in the 80s and was seen by more people in one television show than AEW, NXT, Raw, and SmackDown on any given week combined. So, blow me.
Returning to Raw, the immortal Hulk Hogan.
Well, I think he qualifies as a legend. If you're going for WWE Legends Night, Hogan fits.
But again, this goes to the idea, if you wanted to lump a bunch of these former WWE superstars together and say they're all back for Legends Night, that's one thing. But I would think that if you were going to bring back Hogan, that's enough for just one. Hulk Hogan returns to Raw, like one night, a big deal of just Hogan appearing on the show.
Well, but also, and see, that's what I'm saying. You need a few more because instead of just saying Hulk Hogan returns, if you set up a Legends Night, and did they announce Flair? I heard Flair.
I haven't gotten to him in the alphabetical list, but yes,
okay, in the alphabetical, I see. We're still going on this list?
We're only in H.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You need, if you advertise Hulk Hogan's going to be there, the premise is, why is he going to be there? Well, the premise is it's Legends Night. Well, then you need a few more legends, and you got to have somebody like a Flair as the antagonist for the people to think, well, maybe there's going to be some shit go on, or they're going to fucking trash talk each other, or there's going to be some conflict with that other guy. I can say, so you have a group of legends and people can wonder, well, what might happen if they interact? But 27 of them? Then does that mean they're all going to get 15 seconds apiece to wave like at the Undertaker tribute? Keep going. I'm sorry. We're only in H. Forgive me.
Get your books in order. Returning to Raw, Erwin R. Shyster, otherwise known as IRS.
And he's going to pull out a tire iron and jump Randy Orton for burning his fucking family member to death. How are they related?
That's a good point. That's right. It's his son.
Yeah, that's right. It's his son. Blackjack's, his son and son-in-law and grandson, blah, 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 and all that shit. So there you go.
Speaking of divas, Returning to Raw for Legends Night, Ivory.
I have no issue with Ivory. As a matter of fact, I'm the one that got Ivory her spot. I booked her as a bumpin' hoe for one segment of Raw. No, seriously. I've told you this before, right?
Well, just the way you put it, a bumpin' hoe.
Well, that's the instruction I got. I'm sitting home in Connecticut. I knew all the promoters, handled a lot of all the third-party bookings, and handled a lot of the guys that they would bring in for tryouts and et cetera, because I kept an eye on who was running where in different regions, and I could get job guys for TV, blah, blah, blah. So they called me. That's when Shitstain had old Cornrow head carrying his papers. Monday night in, where the fuck were we? It was Phoenix or someplace out west, but isolated. Denver or Phoenix. Someplace that is hard to get to, and they didn't have a lot of local wrestling. Said, we need a bumpin' hoe for the Godfather segment. She's got to be one of the hoes, but she needs to know how to take bumps. I said, I'll get right back to you. And I used to fuck with them, right? Because they'd come up with these weird things like, we need a midget that can sing, and I'd fucking find the guy, right? So I call Howard Brody, because I knew Howard had been working with the ladies group. I said,
who knows more bumpin' hoes than Howard?
And who knows more bumpin' hoes than Howard Brody? I said, Howard, I need a bumpin', and this, I think she lived in Las Vegas at that point in time, but Ivory was Tina Ferrari on Glow. And
that's right.
She actually, a lot of the Glow girls, and I don't want to get a whole feud started, but let's face it, they were not Mildred Burke. But Ivory, she was in good shape. She could go, she could work, right? And what a personality. And she just looked great. So anyway, I got her number, called him back in like 20 minutes. Okay, I got your bumpin' hoe for Phoenix or whatever. And when she did the spot, once they found out that she had a wrestling background, her personality, she looked like $1 million, they fucking hired her, made her Ivory. But anyway, having said that, are we stretching legend? Is everybody get to be a legend when they've been in the business 20 years? Even Ivory would probably roll her eyes and say, well, I'm a legend now. Okay. But I have nothing against her.
Returning to Raw, January 4th, potentially to have a confrontation with Ivory, the timeless Jacqueline.
Well, there you go, Miss Jackie. Good old Miss Texas. Same thing goes for our great girl, great talent. Is everybody a legend? She certainly would. If she walked onto AEW right now, she'd be the top woman in the company. I watched her beat the bejesus out of Brandon Baxter in Memphis one night, like he owed her trance because she was stiff. But I love her too. But is everybody a legend? And how are they going to have time to do something meaningful with all these people, or does it just water it down and prevent? Like I can see bringing Ivory or Jackie back to do a fucking tag spot with somebody. And it means something instead of them just coming out and doing a parade wave thing or something if they wanted to. I don't know.
Also returning to Raw, a real trendsetter, one of the first wrestlers whose father bought him a promotion, Jeff Jarrett.
Well, Jeff has been working there behind the scenes for a few years now, right? How come he never makes any news, any websites, any podcasts? Not only does he not do them, but they don't talk about him. He must either be doing a great job or just, like George Costanza sleeping under his desk up there.
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. It's the Costanza.
Because I'm surprised. Because to be honest, I always found it easy as shit to work with Jeff Jarrett, and he understands the wrestling business. And I don't see how he is maintaining his sanity being around a lot of those people.
Now, if you're going to bring a Jeff Jarrett in for a Legends Night, do you bring him in as the Double J character from the mid-90s, or do you bring him back as the guitar-smashing slapnuts guy from WCW?
Well, technically, if you're bringing back a WWF legend, but that's so mid-90s. You know, Jeff was better as bashing the guitar over people's heads, but I would, once again, you've got a guy that's that good. He was the best worker in TNA, even when Kurt Angle was there, because Jeff had 20 years of psychology in his head of how to put a match together. That's why Kurt Angle's two best matches, for entirely different reasons, in TNA were against Samoa Joe and Jeff Jarrett. Samoa Joe, because they played to their strengths, and it was built and booked by, the buildup was booked by Dutch Mantell as unusual, an actual fight between two badasses. That was one of the only times ever in TNA that was actually allowed to happen, with Shitstain in charge of creative, so it worked. But if you go back and look at that one single match main event they had, and God, was it Nashville or was it Charlotte? I can't remember. One of the away pay-per-views. Jeff and Kurt Angle had them fucking throwing babies in the air by the end of it, because it was a old-fashioned psychological world title match. And they finally did a spot where they were crawling back in the ring to fucking fight each other. The people are going crazy. Anyway, I would make Jeff some type of on-air. I would acknowledge him as being in the administration of the WWE without saying creative team or what. I don't even know what his job title is, but I would give him a working position on camera as a guy that could either had some authority or could make some matches or whatever. Because that's what he's most famous for over the last 10 years. Everybody acknowledged he was the guy that created TNA. His promotion, Global Force Wrestling, he was doing fucking shows. He's the guy that builds companies and gets the most out of the least sometimes. And can you think of anybody else that's promoted as much stuff, gotten as many TV projects through that fucking drag racing thing on the racing channel? They did a show for India. More I'm thinking about this, I'm saying make him a fucking character on television where he's a goddamn outlaw, the modern day Jack Pfeffer. He goes places and starts wrestling promotions and gets people to work under him, and you could start something with that. And it's real. I don't know. Anyway, hopefully he won't hit Hulk Hogan with the guitar again. That didn't work out well that time before.
Well, if he wants to hit Hulk Hogan with a guitar, he may have to get past this man. Returning to Raw, Jimmy Hart.
Poo-poo. There you go. Now you're back with WWF Legends. There you go. Jimmy Hart not only fit with Hulk Hogan because they're running WCW in the 90s, but opposing him with all of his heels in the 80s and Hillbilly Jim and the blah, blah, blah. There you got a manager. So if you had a manager and a female and fucking Hillbilly Jim and Flair and Hogan and maybe Booker T, you got a nice little selection there.
Another favorite of Dixie Carter's, the Olympian, Kurt Angle.
Okay, he fits for a legend show too, but now we're starting to be overkill, aren't we? This is one free television program.
Well, moving on from there, also returning to Raw for Legends Night, Mark Henry.
You can't argue with Mark Henry. He's a WWF legend. We're really getting overloaded, are we? What do they expect all these people to do? Are they going to have room to have any of their current roster on?
I'm not sure, but also returning another OVW alumni, Melina.
I love Melina to death. Isn't she? Wouldn't she be in the same category as we just put a couple of the other ladies and a couple of the other guys in? Is where do you cut off legend?
Maybe they'll have a big rematch with Alicia Fox. They'll both be in the building. Why have a lost opportunity?
And Steve Austin can come out and referee it.
That's right. Returning to Raw, a man we have not seen in a very long time. I don't think anyone would call him a fashion plate. Michael P.S. Hayes.
Wow. You know, that's the benefit of working there, obviously, for 25 years. Because unless Michael comes out dressed as a free bird, he just wormed his way in because he would have put pouty face on if they hadn't included him. Did Michael Hayes ever wrestle for the WWF past the Freebirds' initial run in '84 that ended quickly?
No.
When did Michael Hayes use his... When Michael Hayes was an on-camera interviewer, he was Doc Hendricks, right?
Yes.
So shouldn't Doc Hendricks be coming back to be part of the Legend Show? Have they acknowledged that Michael Hayes actually works in creative and has for years and years and years?
Well, I think he was Michael Hayes when he managed the Hardy Boys and when he was in the Gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Well, he managed the Hardy Boys as Michael Hayes.
Yes.
So then I think he should either dress as a free bird or he should be advertised as Doc Hendricks.
You know what the PS stands for?
Purely sexy.
Prissy Sissy. According to Ted DiBiase. But anyway, returning to Raw, Mickie James.
Mickie James.
I thought she was on Raw. Or I thought she was an active wrestler. Is she not?
She had come back here not long ago, had she not? But then she may have left during the pandemic because they just had a baby not long ago. But I'd seen her wrestling or her advertised as wrestling or reported on as wrestling here not long ago. I don't know. Same. I mean, you know, it's nice. She's in the same era as Beth Phoenix, Fids, but we're way into overkill now.
Well, only a few more names, and of course, want to remind everyone.
Lord, I hope so.
Want to remind everyone.
Bigger than their normal roster.
You never know who will appear on Raw. There could be many, many, many surprises. But also announced the 37-time World's Champion, including 20 wins and losses in New Zealand, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Woo! And I would think that everybody's hoping that, you know, Flair and Hogan will get in some kind of promo contest with each other or something. I hope they don't get physical.
I'm hoping no one gets sick.
True. If they're traveling, if they're going to be there.
Also returning to Raw, a true legend and a real American hero, Sergeant Slaughter.
There you go. Slaughter is probably for the 80s, besides Hogan, for the 80s WWF fan, would be the biggest name on this list so far, right? So, I mean, you know, he fits. But it's an awful expansive list.
Also returning to Raw, his old stomping grounds, the Native American superstar Tatanka.
Oh boy. Would you call Tatanka's run legendary, Brian?
Well, he had a very long undefeated streak when he first came in. And of course, he turned his back on Lex Luger, taking the money from Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
And then he vanished.
Yeah. Well, he's back.
He's back.
And he's learned a new hold.
I don't know about that. But finally...
that's what... Bruce and Vince used to make fun of Jim Ross behind his back, and sometimes to his face. Because, and he would say rightfully so, when somebody was making a return that had been there before, what makes them different this time? How can they be elevated or made more attractive this time or described as more dangerous or more effective or what, you know, portrayed as a bigger deal than they were the last time? And JR mentioned one time in one of the meetings, well, as they used to say, the guy, you know, left the territory, we came back, he'd learned a new hold. Obviously a new submission hold. He's picked up the figure 4 or he's done this or that or whatever. But Bruce, being as he likes to pop Vince, and get Vince chuckling, would try to imitate Jarrett. Say, well, he could go away and learn a new, come back and learn a new hold. Come back and learn a new hold. And they missed the point of the whole thing. So people continued to just show up with no forethought. But that became famous in the lexicon at Vince's house. Well, he'd go away and learn a new hold.
Would they do that Southern accent that you're doing?
Bruce would. Because that's what makes it funny for Vince, because if you got a Southern accent, then it's funny for Vince.
Did anyone ever actually just say, Vince, you're a Southerner?
Only when he wasn't around.
And finally, the last legend that has been announced, January 4th, Monday Night Raw, Tori Wilson.
Okay. We thank Tori for her support. I don't know. Oh, I remember her. Okay, yeah, that's right.
She was in Playboy.
Yeah, she's blonde. Yeah, well, so was everybody else at that point in time. And the ones that weren't, now apparently you can look on Pornhub and shit. For heaven's sake.
What?
I was sent something I was surprised at the other day, is all I'll say. But
what?
But anyway, so there you have it, the big Legends Night.
What a cliffhanger you just hit us with.
The big Legends Night. And so what is that, like 25 people?
23, I think.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
And it's not even counting legends like Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, Shawn Michaels, who I assume may be there because they're all working behind the scenes. I mean, you have Jeff Jarrett there. You need the roadie.
Well, if they bring them all out, they won't. That's what I'm saying. They won't have any room for. Well, this is what they're planning all along. They'll just tell the new guys, the active roster, take the night off. We don't have room for you. And they'll do the biggest rating they've done in 5 years.
So much of this is always about Vince McMahon cracking himself up. Are you surprised they haven't brought Mantar back for anything?
Well, I don't know whether they can find him. They may have gone out to Montana and looked at all the corrals, but, yes, Vince likes to crack up, but he used to have a sense of, he was a brilliant promoter. I'm not saying he had the greatest wrestling mind. He had a great promotional mind. And he knew when to not fucking overdo shit, or when to do shit, or how to get the most out of people, or how to make somebody a star or attractive, or build them, or sell something. And now it just looks like that they're, constantly, whenever they need to get a rating, and obviously they need to now, they trot out all the big stars that they've made before, but they just plop them out like shit on a plate. And so here's a list of 25 big names that are going to be there. Well, as I told Kerry Silkin one time in Ring of Honor, I said, if you take these 7 guys off the card, are the fans going to set the seats on fire? And it's a difference between you making money and losing money on a house show. If they advertised the top 12 of those names, couldn't they keep the other 13 for the next time they wanted to pop a rating? Or it's just everybody that they still like these days.
One final question about this. We're not watching this, are we?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me back up on that.
Uh-oh.
No, hold on here. If there is I'm not saying we have to see the whole 3-hour extravaganza, but if there is a self-contained segment where the upper echelon of those legends interact with each other, that might be kind of cool. Of course, I've got faith that they'll fuck it up.
Are you going to DVR it?
We might have to do that just so we could zip through it and see what Flair and Hogan do.
Here, I'll book the show for you. Here's how it's going to go. The show's going to open, and Hogan will come to the ring with his music. He'll start talking. About 90 seconds into it, someone else's music will hit. Oh my God, it's Ric Flair. They'll start going at it for about, 60 seconds, and then someone else's music will hit, and they'll just parade out to the ring. None of these people have seen each other backstage, preparing to come out. And then there'll be another segment where you have a couple legends going at it, and they end up putting down or just completely cutting the balls off of some contemporary wrestling star. Those are a couple of the segments we'll be seeing on this show.
Well, now we've got to watch it to determine whether you're Nostradamus or Nostradamus.
All right. Well, we'll see. I guess we'll be DVRing that January 4th.
Remind me.
Yes. Oh, I certainly will. Yeah. Well, Jim, some of us may do podcasts with someone who forces them to watch really bad content. And you may say, man, I'm sick of this guy in Louisville making me watch this crap. I want to sue.
Well, now, I have another way of looking at it. I have a way of looking at it that I may be saying to myself, I may be saying I need to sue that no-good son of a bitch in the wilds of New Jersey that is really the one behind making me watch all this crap. But regardless of whether you want to sue a fine, upstanding young man in Louisville, Kentucky, or a no-good prick in the wilds of New Jersey, there's only one man you should call.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, it was a New Year's resolution years ago that I made that I have stuck to since then, that I was only going to speak to attorneys in my life for the rest of my life when they were working for me and on my side. And I'm proud to say that after many years of having to talk to the other side, I have kept that New Year's resolution. The only attorney that I speak to now is the attorney that's on my side, that's on your side, that's on the side of the people. Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. He's a member of the Cult of Cornette. He's helped countless members of the Cult of Cornette. We've read some of the testimonials over the many months that Stephen has been featured here on the program. He's also involved in so many of the cases against the major corporations that may have harmed you or damaged you that you need compensation and relief from, whether the pharmaceutical companies or the big oil companies. The company that poisoned the entire city in West Virginia there. He's filing class action suits as we speak, and very shortly the deadlines are up on the cancer Zantac issue, on the cancer Roundup issue. He's helping some folks in nursing homes and senior citizen centers as we speak right now with elder abuse and lack of proper care. He's on top of things. And if you need advice, if he can't handle your case, he'll tell you who to get handled by. And when Stephen tells you somebody can handle you, that handler is going to handle you right. 888-692-8084. If you need to sue, call Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com.